Hello, I'm Alex from BSC Designer. In this tutorial, we'll talk about identifying risks and aligning them with strategic objectives. Let's use this digital transformation strategy as an example. Here in the learning and growth perspective, we have a goal: implement strategy automation tools. Achieving this goal will help to formulate and execute strategies more effectively. But what are the risks associated with this goal? Why it might be a challenge to implement such software? A possible risk is legacy data, such as poorly organized KPIs and objectives that are stored in various spreadsheet documents. Let's see how BC Designer helps to manage a risk mitigation plan in this case. To create a new risk mitigation initiative, I need to select a goal and click on the Initiatives button. I already have an example here, so let's check it out. I can see that the type of this initiative is set to risk, and this icon helps to distinguish this risk initiative from other initiatives on my scorecard. In the name field is a short definition of the risk. In the description, I have a brief uh, risk mitigation plan. In this example, the plan is to find an automation tool that permits adjusting the data model according to the data model used in the spreadsheets. This will make the data transfer easier. In the document section, I have links to additional risk mitigation documents. For example, in this article, we talk about the best ways to prepare for data migration. I can also assign the owner for this risk, a person who will receive all the relevant notifications. Also, it's possible to define the dependencies of this initiative on other risk mitigation plans. Like any initiative in BC Designer, a risk mitigation initiative can have a budget and timeline. In this example, the budget might be the annual investment in the software subscription, and the duration shows the estimated time needed to migrate data from various spreadsheets to the software. Later, we can use this data to create a cost of strategy report that will summarize the cost and time required to execute all risk mitigation initiatives from this risk scorecard. There is a status field that will help our team to follow a certain workflow. Typically, a risk will pass through initial analysis, execution, and review stage. Once the risk is archived, the software will stop showing it on the strategy map. If you need to mention this risk mitigation initiative during some internal brainstorming sessions, you can share a direct link to it using this link tool. We have a conceptual definition of the risk. To make it even more specific, we can quantify it with a risk indicator. What can be a possible risk indicator in this case? The scorecards in a spreadsheet are hard to maintain, and it takes a long time to find the right data to support business decisions. With this idea in mind, we can quantify this risk by the time needed for data to be available for analysis. I selected this risk indicator in the aligned KPI field. And here on the right, the software shows me the current performance of this indicator. Let's close the risk mitigation initiative and check out other settings of our risk indicator. On the General tab, I have the indicator's name and its measurement units. On the Data tab, I see the thresholds for this indicator as well as its current value. Next to the value field, there is a data source button that I can use to connect this scorecard to some database, other scorecard, or import data from Excel. On the Performance tab, I see the indicator's weight or degree of its impact on the scorecard. There is an optimization function, which in this case is minimize, as we want to minimize time needed to access the data. The software calculated for me the performance of this indicator according to the thresholds, current value, and optimization function. Finally, on the Context tab, I can see if these indicators impact the scorecard as leading or lagging indicator, as well as select the way it is visualized on the strategy map. I can visualize this risk indicator on the gauge chart. It shows that we are in the red zone now. I can also visualize it on the risk diagram. In this case, on the impact axis, I have the relevant weight of the indicator defined on the performance tab. And on the probability axis, the software shows the indicator's current value. With 100% impact probability and the performance of just 15%, we are in the red zone. When our team is working with this risk, the time needed for data analysis will decrease. Let's say that for May, we will have the necessary strategy data available within 3 minutes. I can select May in the calendar and update its value. The indicator in this case is moving to the green zone. Obviously, it's not necessary to enter data manually. We can automate data entry in various ways via the data source button that I mentioned before. To see the data for the previous date, I can select the necessary date in the calendar or open Values Editor. Our risk mitigation plan has a certain timeline, plus there is a risk indicator that quantifies its progress. We can use the dashboard to visualize this information. For example, a Gantt chart on the dashboard helps to see a big picture of all initiatives with their dependencies, deadlines, and progress data. Additionally, we can add a specific gauge or risk chart to the dashboard. Finally, BSC Designer can automate the reporting for the risk mitigation plan via the report tool. For example, here I have action plan report that shows all initiatives from this strategy scorecard. Here I have a custom report profile called Indicators and Risks. Configure it to show all indicators with high relevant weight and low performance. Finally, the cost of strategy report will summarize the budgets of all initiatives to calculate the total budget needed to execute a risk mitigation strategy. We discussed how BSC Designer helps align risk mitigation plans with business goals. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to contact our customer support team.